Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Came to this little place. Waiter says, try this, you'll like it. What's this? Try it, you'll like it. But what is try it, you'll like it? So I tried it. Thought I was gonna die.
Think that was some bad advice? Just wait till you hear what everybody's telling you to do with your 401k plan.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, best-selling author and fiduciary, Tony Walker. For the past 35 years, I've dedicated my life's work to helping savers use and enjoy and protect their money whenever, and here's the key, and for whatever reason they might choose to do so. Of course, sounds like an obvious mission for any advisor or financial institution. However, that's not really the case. You see, while we at Tony Walker Financial are all about helping you use and enjoy your money while you still can, most of the rest of this financial world is not. On today's show, I'm going to reveal to you why so many financial advisors and those pundits on radio, TV, and yes, the internet are advising you to not take money out of the 401k plan. In fact, many times giving you actually bad advice when it comes to using this money that you've worked so hard to create. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today, we're going to accomplish three things. First, I'm going to share with you why the people investing your money don't want you to use it. Secondly, a further idea we have touched on but never really gone into any great detail on this show, something we call other people's money, which will also help explain why the movement in keeping this interest rate environment so low has gotten so out of hand. And then finally, we're actually going to talk about what God has to say about the reaction of us as people to the coronavirus, as well as our reaction to the politicians who are taking away our very livelihood in the process. But first, allow me to introduce none other than the producer of the Worry-Free Retirement, His Highness, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and at the technical helm, feverishly working on our graphics, is Miss Megan Murphy. Okay. As we have done since this whole coronavirus thing started, let's begin today's program, because things are changing so quickly, with today's date, which is April 27th, 2020. And as I speak, we are starting to see some light at the end of the shutdown tunnel, as many states around the country finally are realizing something that I've said all along since this whole thing started on March 16th, 2020. Now, why March 16th, 2020? I don't know if you remember this. I'm sure Aaron sure does. That was our scheduled workshop, and that was the first time I realized how serious this was. Back on March 16th here in Louisville, we had over 60 people planning to attend and found out at literally the last minute that we could only let in 5 people. I think it was limited to 10, but we had 5. So again, we saw how quickly this economy can shut down. But when you do so, when you do this, folks, what happens, the reason I knew this would be disastrous to literally shut down an economy, is because you're limiting and restricting people's freedoms. You want a history lesson on this? Let's head all the way back to December 16th, 1773, when a bunch of mad Bostonians, tired of the English government telling them what to do, started throwing chests of high-priced tea into the Boston Harbor. Folks, this country was built on the ability for you and I to come and go as we see fit, and to work hard, be ambitious, and provide for the ones we love. You take that away, and really, you ain't got much left. I say this not as a politician. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just somebody that understands economics, and I also understand a little bit about the spiritual background of the effect of this on so many believers, which we'll talk about. All right, here's what's going to happen. When we return, I'm going to first talk about your 401k plan. What is really a 401k plan? And of course, this coronavirus has exposed what it really is. And then, what is its purpose? I'll then show you how we at Tony Walker Financial are protecting our clients' money, but at the same time, we're showing them how they can use and enjoy it without us telling them when they got to do so. Good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. Did you know there's a financial product that recently outperformed the stock market with no risk? It's called a fixed indexed annuity. I'm Tony Walker, and for the past 20 years, I've helped 2,000 savers enjoy the safety and security that fixed indexed annuities offer. So if you have money in a 401k, IRA, maybe a lump sum pension that you'd like to safeguard, why not consider a fixed indexed annuity with Tony Walker Financial? To meet with me, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, reading again a white paper I created called Understanding the Unprecedented. We kind of ran a special promotion on this. It went over very well, describing the effects of the coronavirus on our economy. This download is still available, by the way, at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Okay, with all this fallout from the shutting down of our economy, one of the most prevalent pieces of recurring advice coming from all these financial know-it-alls out there is for you and I not to touch our 401k plan. Never mind that the 401k is today and has always been basically a savings plan for the future. It's not really a retirement plan as it was first pitched to us back in 1978 when it was created. You see, in 1978, big businesses were in a pickle. For years, they had offered Joe Lunchbox, people like my granddad, something they called a pension. A true retirement plan that would guarantee their workers a lifetime income that they could never outlive. It was truly a way for someone to knowingly avoid running out of money, and thus most people didn't worry about it. It was what you see is kind of what you get. So now add in this employer motivation to come up with something to put the savings responsibility on the employee. Add in a little dash of Wall Street technology and the newly introduced mutual funds that were offered. Plus, we get the government thrown into the deal to create a bunch of complicated tax laws that nobody can keep up with. And voila, you have a way for hardworking Americans to start risking their hard-earned savings. So now we fast forward, and we've been told to max out, put all of our money in these 401k plans. Now we're at nearly 20% unemployment. Money's not liquid. People need money. They can't eat. And you got these darn 401k plans that have locked up all of this money. So what do the know-it-alls tell Joe Lunchbox? You're going to have to starve to death before I would ever encourage you to touch that money. This is crazy, folks. In fact, you don't believe me? Let's take a look at just some articles we stumbled across. There's a bunch of them out there. Let's quickly go through what you're being told not to do with your money, all right? This one says, it came out of Forbes.com, how to keep your 401k on track during the COVID-19. Of course, it talks about the COVID-19 pandemic. It says you might even be looking at your 401k as a potential source of emergency income. Isn't it funny that they put emergency income in there? You know, I don't know about you, but if I'm having an emergency, I'm going to do what it takes to meet the needs of an emergency. I'm not going to look at this 401k as some sort of sacred cow. That's my money in there, and I expect to get it out. But look at that. Before you hit the withdrawal button, take a deep breath. You've done all this work saving for retirement. Look at this. The experts tell you don't touch the 401k plan. Easy for them to say. Most of these people are probably multimillionaires. They're not worried about trying to put food on the table, folks. Let's go to another article. Here's one, BusinessInsider.com, a financial planner, I don't know who this might be, has a message for everyone with a 401k. Don't touch that money. Don't you love that? People, I mean, that's all that's been going on, folks. I hate to say this. Everybody's telling us what to do. I don't know if you're like me. Please quit telling me what to do. Well, here's somebody says, don't touch your 401k ever. Look at this. He talks about, it goes down here and talks about the phone ringing. See, I'm a financial advisor too. I'm a retirement planning specialist. We take a lot of calls. Last year alone, I met literally hundreds and hundreds of people face to face. But look at this. If I ever get an anxious voice from somebody on the other line calling me and needs money, basically, I'm probably going to try to figure out how to get them some money. It's their money, not my money. I'm certainly not going to tell them to don't touch your 401k. Look at that. Luckily, they listened to me. I mean, so what did they do? Do they go on the cow can diet now? What are they supposed to do? Next article, please, Aaron. CARES Act liberalizes 401k withdrawals. So the CARES Act was literally what was instituted as a result of the coronavirus by Congress to help alleviate the stress of money. Financial assistance, stimulus, we're going to talk about that in just a second. But look at this. Now they've allowed you to borrow even more money from your 401k plan, something I've never really recommended. Not only can you borrow up to $50,000, but $100,000, and you don't even have to pay the interest back. So what happens is, let's get this straight. You're going to borrow money out of a plan. If the market goes up while that money's borrowed out, you don't gain any money, so there's a lost opportunity cost. Then you got to pay back the interest eventually with after-tax money, and then the money's going to be taxed again, probably down the road, in my opinion, at a higher tax rate. This is really good advice as well. Let's keep going one more time. Should I withdraw money from my 401k? Again, experts typically advise against doing this, but the fallout from the coronavirus has left many people scrambling to pay their bills. Again, folks, generally, in most cases, most people, most of these big institutions that have these huge 401ks they're managing for you, they'd rather you not take the money out. This is how they make money on your money. It's called other people's money, or OPM. We're going to talk about this in the next segment. Let's kind of, I think we got a quote from this, don't we, Aaron? Let's go to the next one. Here you go. I like this. Now, this is like Captain Obvious. Once you pull funds out of your retirement accounts, it could take a while to replenish it, and it could be detrimental to the long-term savings. Now, wait a minute. I know you're probably not a mathematician, but if you have $100,000 and you have to take out 30, obviously you only have 70. We know that it's going to affect our future income, folks, but you have to do that in order to live. So again, folks, this is the problem we're running into. At Tony Walker Financial, do we have a solution for this? Our solution is something we call the split IRA concept, and we have used this for years, and this is a wonderful tool because it gives you flexibility to use and enjoy the money while you can, and then on the back end we use fixed annuities to provide that guaranteed mailbox money. You know, of the $350 million plus of annuities we had on the books during this last stock market crash, guess how many of them went down? Zero. Folks, this is a wonderful tool, and coupled with our Charles Schwab platform and that ability to get access to your money, it's a real game changer. So to find out more, to maybe look at moving money to our process, why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and let's get started. Well, I bet you're asking yourself, Tony, all this stimulus money and billions here and trillions here, who eventually is going to have to pay all this back? Speaking of other people's money, I've got a wonderful scenario to share with you. This is our next economics lesson. Believe me, when you see this, you're going to so much better understand what's going on when they talk about stimulus money and the effects of it on your money. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today.
How much do you worry about a debt in excess of 100% of GDP?
Well, Chris, the good news is that interest rates are extremely low. So if you look at the portion of the budget that we're actually allocating to interest, it's extremely low, and we're locking in long-term rates to make sure this additional money we've locked up for a long period of time.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. That was Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin recently describing, actually on April 26, 2020, we're recording this show on April 27th, 2020, why the low interest rate environment is so beneficial to this country when it comes to borrowing other people's money, which happens to be your money. Well, you know, we've been talking about this theme. During bad times, are there good ideas out there? This is something you might want to think about. So let's follow the Treasury Secretary's logic here, even with your own situation. We're imagining now, we're going to go through this pretty quickly, that you've got a home worth $300,000, has $150,000 debt, 4.5% interest over 30 years, and let's stop right there, Aaron. So you have $760 a month you're going to have to pay for 30 years. Now there's something called LOC, or lost opportunity cost. What that means is, if you could have invested that money somewhere else, let's say in some growth mutual fund, this literally cost you, this house cost you $581,000, all right? Stay with me. But let's say at the same time, we have a credit card. This is our opportunity cost figure because we imagine you have $50,000 of various debts, credit card debts, 8%, and you're going to pay that over 30 years. That would be $366 a month. Let's stay here, Aaron. So let's compare this. So you're Joe Lunchbox. You got that $150,000 debt to pay it off based on 8% LOC, meaning that's your cost of money. You had this debt out here. Look at this. You add those two figures together over 30 years. The house plus paying off $50,000 in debt because of all this high interest is over $1.1 million. And you say, well, Tony, how can I save more money for retirement? Do I do that through investing? In this example, we're using other people's money because what we're doing here, we're understanding. Now, again, this isn't for the faint of heart. This would require some review by somebody trained to understand numbers like this. So please, what I'm about to show you, don't rush out and do this, but keep in mind, if you're in this kind of situation, interest rates are very, very low. This is the only reason the government can justify borrowing another $3 trillion, folks. But you can do the same thing in going from what I call bad debt to good debt. Take that good debt possibly, again, possibly in your home, and let's see what happens here. So next slide. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the bank and we're going to say, bank, I got all this equity. I want to borrow $200,000. Why would we do that? Because we want to pay off the home and pay off those credit cards, and we refinance it at 3.5%. Interest rates are lower for 30 years, and now our LOC is $575,000. But keep in mind, after 30 years, all the debt's gone, and we only have that payment, so our total cost of money for everything is $575. And you might say, well, Tony, I don't see the savings. Where's the savings? All right, well, let's go back to our previous scenario. In scenario one, remember, if you paid off that credit card and all those other bad debts, just given a minimum interest and a minimum amount of principal at 8%, it's going to cost you about $1.1 million between that and your house payment, assuming your house payment is a higher interest. Again, folks, what we're trying to share here, some of you are sitting there feeling like your hands are tied. You may have a lot of equity in your home. You may have some bad debts. You may have an interest rate on your home that's way out of control. Maybe you do like Steve Mnuchin and what the government's doing, and you take advantage of low interest rates. Look at the difference here. Scenario two was taking all of those debts, lopping them into one, refinancing the home at a lower rate using other people's money, and you pick up a savings. What is that total? Almost $550,000. Now, I don't know how much more money you got to stock away in your 401k at risk to try to equal $544,000, but that might take a lot of time. So here's the problem, folks. When you're dealing with financial firms, with a financial advisor, with a money manager, a lot of times, I can't speak for all of them, but a lot of times they don't understand something called lost opportunity cost, or they don't understand cost of money. This is what Mr. Mnuchin's talking about. Now, quite frankly, do I agree with the government borrowing another $3 trillion just because interest rates are low? Well, of course not. But my point is, he understands cash flow, and he understands that low interest rates allow you to move a lot of money around at a least amount of cost. So the question is, we can't control what the government's going to borrow, but we can control how you manage your money. And this is just one of the many ideas that we can share with you at Tony Walker Financial. I've been doing this for over 35 years. I've been trained by some of the brightest minds in the industry. And guess what? We have the only process in the country called the Worry-Free Retirement. It's dedicated to savers just like you, and I'd like that opportunity to share it with you. Why don't you do this? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. We can either meet in person, by phone, or we can do one of those video chats. It's not a problem, and best of all, it's absolutely free to meet. So log on, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, does the Bible have anything spiritually to add to this whole financial pandemic and all of this coronavirus? It really does, but I think what my observations on this are, is going to actually kind of surprise you. You hang in there. I'll be right back with what the Bible has to say about you and your money. Well, our employee spotlight today is none other than our own Jennifer Jaggers, and I want to welcome Jennifer to the program.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I know you and Heather made the trip from Bowling Green to our Louisville studios today. What's it like driving down here knowing this is what I do once a week, is driving the roads of I-65? How was the drive, by the way?
I admire you for that. As a road rage kind of girl, better you than me.
Well, we are excited to have you, and again, we just wanted you to share briefly. First of all, I like to call you JJ, that's your new nickname, but first of all, about your background in banking. You came to us recently, and we're so fortunate to have you, but tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Okay. I actually started off pretty much my career in banking. I've always been on the loan side of banking, so I was a loan processor for a long time. I enjoyed that. I thought, now since being here, I really enjoy the research aspect of this job. I totally did not know anything about this financial world. So I have enjoyed thoroughly learning the other side of finances, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. And you've done such a wonderful job. Of course, we've had some changes at Tony Walker Financial. We're growing like crazy. But you started out servicing our annuity business and client services, and you're still doing some of that. But talk about your role in terms of administering and getting all the new annuity business issued, and how detailed that is, and how much business we're doing now to help these savers.
After you bring the file back to me, I get all of the client's personal information. I put that into whichever insurance agency that we are using for that annuity that they have chosen. I submit that information. I make sure all of their suitability, which is their financial information, is correct and accurate, so that those annuities will be submitted. And when we get that annuity finalized back in the office, I put together a neat little binder for you to deliver to them at their final appointment.
And I guess sometimes I probably need to have you more in meetings. You don't get to see this, but the way we organize everything and the way we present everything, what would you speak to that? I mean, just the involved, detailed process of getting the annuities, putting them in the binders. We have the last day planners. Can you speak to that a little bit, and how good you feel that, hey, we've got the mission accomplished, here's your annuity, here's how we work at Tony Walker Financial?
Those binders are amazing to me. It takes everything that they have, everything that they've purchased, it puts that in a nice little graph for them. You have their actual paper copies of their annuities placed into that binder. So everything's very organized for that if they need that in the future while you're sitting there with them going over that.
And then they know too, they've got you. Now we got Mandy in the office, but they've got you to follow back up with service questions regarding those annuities.
Right. And anything as far as change of addresses, change of beneficiaries, anything that you need to change on that current annuity contract, we can get that taken care of.
Well, JJ, we appreciate your work so much. We're so happy to have you at Tony Walker Financial, and look forward to writing many more annuities and helping all these savers.
Thank you, Tony. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Worried about running out of money in retirement? Then download Mailbox Money for Life from best-selling author and retirement planning specialist Tony Walker. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
You know, with all this coronavirus going on, one of the biggest surprises I've seen is the government basically telling churchgoers that they cannot attend church. Again, we're recording this on April 27th, 2020, and it seems as if we're consulting everybody in the world, scientists, economists, politicians, you name it, except people that seem to know God. It kind of reminds me of an old story dating back in the 1930s when a drought-stricken farming community desperately needed rain in order to survive. With their crops almost in ruin and rain not in the forecast, someone got the bright idea to have an evangelist come into their community and hold a revival to what? Pray that God would make it rain. There were some 2,000 citizens of this farming community that apparently showed up to hear this powerful evangelist speak and to hopefully beg God to send them some rains. And his first question to the audience was this: how come none of you brought umbrellas? You see, folks, it's times like these that we are tested by God. Are we, as Christians, going to put our faith in men and science? Or are we going to put it in God? Is our most valuable asset really our home, our bank account, or some risky 401k that's already infested with a tax tumor we don't know how to deal with? No, our most important possession is faith in God. You know, in 1993, as a new Christian, I helped found the Bowling Green Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, and for the next 11 years following that, I would become its chair and also the person responsible for finding speakers for the breakfast. I met a gentleman out of California by the name of Kermit Sutherland, whose ministry it was to find speakers. He helped me a lot. And after meeting him, he also invited me shortly thereafter to the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. It was a real treat. In fact, the breakfast was held at the same hotel I stayed there where Ronald Reagan was almost assassinated. Anyway, entering this large ballroom for this morning breakfast, not knowing what to expect, was this huge room. At least 2,000 to 3,000 people were there, and one of those persons seated nearby, actually several of them, was President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton, Newt Gingrich, Justice Ginsburg. I mean, everybody was there to hear none other than Billy Graham. I don't know if you know much about Billy Graham or what you think about Billy Graham, but you know what we're missing in this country right now? We're missing a Billy Graham, someone who is God-fearing, who is a follower of Christ, and here's the important thing, folks, because I saw it firsthand, had the ear and the respect of politicians, just like you and I would like to have his respect right now. God has always been on our side, but I'm afraid we tend to have abandoned God. You know, there's an interesting scripture. We're all wanting to pray for something. Let's all pray for this and that. Let's think about praying for this scripture right now, found in 2 Chronicles 7:14. It simply says this: "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, I'll forgive their sin, and I'll heal their land." I trust that you can sincerely pray such a prayer and that you would trust God with the rest. Well, speaking of trusting people with the rest, I don't know about you, but my hope is that I can try to help you make sense of your money, to give you a little bit of peace of mind about what you've got and what you're trying to do with this money while you still can enjoy it. We're a full-service, independent fiduciary firm, and we would love to sit down with you either in person, by phone, or we can do a quick video chat to see how our process, the Worry-Free Retirement, might help you sleep better at night knowing that your money is safe and sound, and more importantly, that you're not going to run out of it in retirement. To take advantage of this free service, why don't you log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. While there, you can view many of our blog posts, you can watch previous episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement, and more importantly, you can get started on getting a written game plan so that you and your loved ones can know better what you can do with this money right now while you still can. TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, folks, I've enjoyed being with you. Next week, we're going to continue our discussion of other people's money, try to make sense of how you can use and enjoy this money now, and why, here's the important part, why your money is actually worth less over time than it is right now. We hope you enjoyed today's program. I look forward to seeing you next week, but you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.